Welcome back. You're listening to the discussion Innovation in Government, Cyber Resiliency, sponsored by Carasoft on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today, Sudhakar Ramakrishna, the president and CEO of SolarWinds. Sudhakar, let's start with the basics. You talked about customers. You talked a little bit in the last segment about the employees, the customers stuck with you. They asked you hard questions. What were the steps you took to help customers remediate? I know I talked to some CIOs and CISOs who said, we weren't affected that much. We just had to update the patches. Others, they heard maybe had to do the full rip and replace, which is costly and time consuming and concerning. So give me a sense of what you're seeing from agencies and how did you all help with remediation?
Definitely. So Jason, let me maybe set some context in terms of the customer conversations. When we first came out and reported this back in December, we said that as many as 18,000 customers may have downloaded the impacted code versions. But then as we went through the investigation, we have highlighted that less than 100 customers were probably impacted. Where I'm saying we're probably impacted because we can only go by certain characteristics of those customers. So it's thankfully much smaller than what we had originally highlighted as a possibility. And that is because of various reasons, I would say. One is that not every customer that downloaded a patch actually deploys a patch because they may be waiting for the next patch, or they may have found out about it and never even deployed. So those are automatically outside the concern zone, so to speak. Two is that most customers would have configured the product in such a way that it does not have internet access or passing through their firewalls, because the way the malware works is that it sits dormant in the customer's environment for a period of time and tries to connect back to a backdoor server that gives its instructions on what to do. So if you don't have access to the firewalls, or I should say to the internet, then even though you may have deployed the malware, it's kind of inert because it really can't do anything. So as we went through that sifting down process, even as we completed the investigation, it came down to a fairly small number of customers. However, our duty was, and our responsibility was, to help every customer who had deployed the malware to an upgrade, whether it was a complete rebuild or, to your earlier point, simply a patch. So we did this in multiple ways. One is every one of our customer success, customer support engineers, system engineers, sales engineers were engaged with customers. In fact, on average, I found out that we speak to 5,000 people a day as a company, outside people. This is customers. The partner network came in very, very handy and worked side by side with us as well. We created a program called the Orion Assistance Program, which is leveraging our worldwide network of partners to touch any customer that needed help with a simple upgrade or a complete rebuild. And we made those things happen on our cost as a way of ensuring, call it, the trust that customers place in us is not misplaced, and that we are a vendor that can be counted upon, not just now, but into the future.
I remember talking to your folks maybe back in February timeframe, maybe it was January, about the fact you were footing the bill. And I thought that was a sign not of failure, but a sign of actually success, because you're saying this is really important to us and this matters to our customers. Was that a hard decision to kind of talk internally through, or was that a no-duh decision?
Honestly, that wasn't a hard decision at all to say yes to. Obviously, at that point when we said yes to, we were not 100% clear on what the financial impact might be, how many customers will leverage it, etc. But in the spirit of do the right things the right way that I described in the previous segment, this was pretty much a no-brainer to agree to. And more importantly, or equally importantly, I should say, Jason, is that brought us closer to our partners. Because ultimately, I look at our partners as an extension of SolarWinds. It's not a third-party entity that's outside of SolarWinds. And this is something that I've been reinforcing to our partners across the world, that we truly view them as an extension of us. And we'd like to work side by side with them so that our customers succeed. And when our customers succeed, obviously our partners succeed, and then SolarWinds succeeds.
Of the 100 or so customers you think probably, as you said, were infected, do you have any sense of how many are federal government or what percentage? We saw some in the fiscal 2022 budget request that President Biden sent forward. A couple agencies actually highlighted we need money to recover, to remediate from the SolarWinds cyber incident. Do you have any sense of how many or what percentage?
I do not have a specific percentage on that, Jason. Obviously, the federal government customers are very important to us. And I personally have spoken to many of them. I'd like to say all of them, but I would like to say many of them at this point, and I continue to do so. And we're doing this for multiple reasons. One is touching the customers, making sure that they are happy and satisfied with our performance and support. Two is articulating to them what we have learned, what we are doing, because many of our federal government customers are also having complex supply chains from a software standpoint. And we are trying to drive our learnings into their environments. And the third is a two-way open dialogue where we can understand their requirements and their concerns better and take action. So I'm, again, very grateful, I would say, is probably the right word to use in this context, to the government customers who have engaged with us, who have helped us, and who have been patient with us. And many of them actually have now turned our systems back on and are experiencing the benefits of the solutions that we deliver.
One of the things you mentioned several times is share our lessons learned. You mentioned with the FBI, you mentioned with other companies, you mentioned with federal agencies. What is the big one or two lessons learned and that really from this SolarWinds incident, but more, how did that push you to change the internal processes?
Yeah, we looked at a few dimensions, Jason. I have an initiative internally that I call Secure by Design. And the reason why I picked the term Secure by Design, which is something that I've used in a previous company once, but maybe more broadly here, is that security should not be an afterthought of delivering a product. So we do pen testing, we do post a software analysis of the security of a software. All those are required, but I would say those are not sufficient, and security needs to be planned in or designed in, so to speak. And that needs to happen at the infrastructure level, that needs to happen in the build systems, that needs to happen in the build processes, and more broadly, in the consciousness and the training of the company. So the learning, or if you want to think of it as the action that we're taking, is how do we incorporate that across those dimensions within the entire company? Related to that, and specifically, some of the things that I would highlight here are we are significantly expanding our red team capabilities, number one, because it is important for us to think like threat actors, no matter the size of the company or the resources of the company, and provide some ability for the team to do synthetic attacks against ourselves, to learn and improve on an ongoing basis. Two is that this is specific to the BOM, software bill of materials, and software development itself. We have created 3 parallel build systems. And the 3 parallel build systems are in different locations with different permissions. And the whole idea, going back to digitally signing a piece of code and delivering it to customers and giving them the confidence that it's clean and pristine and is coming from us. The goal is build across 3 systems, create cross dependencies, and I should say cross checks across those 3 environments to make sure that the integrity is not compromised in any one of them. So if you think about a threat actor, even if they're able to compromise in one environment, they will have to consistently compromise across 3 different environments in exactly the same way for us to have a compromised delivery to the field. That required a lot of innovation, that required a lot of investment on our part. And our goal is that as we perfect it, to be able to document it and publish it. And so this is some of the work that I'm working with some of the federal government agencies, including CISA and others, to articulate what we are doing.
Sudhakar, we're almost done with the show. Before I let you go, I did want you to touch upon this idea of supply chain risk and how agencies and companies can work closely together. You mentioned the software bill of materials. What are some other steps to really ensure that whatever company there is going forward, whatever agency we're talking about, they can have confidence in what they're getting from the vendors? What's the one message you would send?
I think it may be a set of messages, Jason, but just to summarize, I'm a believer in evolving to a software bill of materials type approach, because that provides a level of integrity to the raw materials that go into ensuring that a particular piece of software has high integrity. Additionally, I would say evolving the industry to more secure development life cycles as opposed to software development life cycles, and driving a level of consistency would also drive a better security consciousness across the industry, both public and private sectors.
All right. I know there's a lot of work going on software bill of materials, so I'm sure we'll see a lot more about that and have much more to talk about. But unfortunately, we're out of time for today. So let me thank my guest. Sudhakar Ramakrishna is the president and CEO of SolarWinds. Sudhakar, always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Jason. And thank you for having me here. And look forward to seeing you soon.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to the discussion Innovation in Government, Cyber Resiliency, sponsored by Carahsoft on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search innovation.